Formula 1 is full of hidden rules that can make or break a race. These rules, set by the FIA, aim to keep drivers safe and competitions fair, but sometimes they can have unexpected consequences. From safety measures to competition tweaks, understanding these rules can give drivers a powerful edge on the track. So, buckle up and dive into the world of F1's strange and surprising regulations. Dropped scores. For the first 40 years of F1, the point system was a system whereby drivers could drop their worst race result. This means when they did their worst, these races would not be counted as part of their final score. In 1990, it was a case of only 11 races out of 16 being accountable for the total points. Ayrton Senna scored points in 11 races, but Alain Prost scored in 12 races. Nevertheless, Prost had to leave out his 5th race finish in the Canadian Grand Prix, so he lost 2 points for that reason. The championship race was disrupted by the point loss, and in 1988, Prost got 3 second places, while Senna achieved only a 4th and a 6th place. Finally, Senna was the one who clinched the championship title by a margin of just 3 points. This regulation was only for driver's title and not for constructor's title. The Constructors' Championship accumulated the points since 1978. Before '80, there was a different system where the season was split into 2 parts. The drivers and the constructors were allowed to deduct 1 point's score for each half of the season until the last 2 years. From 1950 to 1966, they did not split the season, but they still only counted the best 4, 5, or 6 race results depending on how many races there were in the season. Therefore, the idea of a comparable scoring system for nowadays would imply that drivers would be allowed to drop their worst races as it was done in the past. Post-race traditions. In the wake of the F1 race, you may observe some common customs, but they're usually accompanied by a lot of restrictions. Firstly, we have the podium ceremony, where the top 3 drivers stand. He is the one who is responsible for making sure everything is in order before that happens, and he's the one who will be in charge of the smoothness of the whole event. Let's talk about comfort. If it's hot, the cool-down room that drivers spend time after the race has to be well ventilated or air-conditioned in order to keep it cool. In the end, however, it is the endurance that matters and the sweat is the proof of it. It must be just plain water, no sassy labels desirable. Last but not least, for a glamorous occasion such as this one, it is mandatory to have drinks for the winners' podium celebrations. But the national anthems are actually regulated too. They need to be played via a proper sound system, so no DIY blasting with your home speaker. In conclusion, though post-race celebrations may appear to be a simple affair, there is a whole lot of unseen logistics that are put in place to ensure everything goes on as planned. Wing adjustments. The 2019 season of Formula 1 will see some tweaks in the barge boards and the rear wing of the cars. These changes are designed to improve the airflow behind the cars to provide the subsequent car a better chance to overtake the front car, thus making the racing more exciting. The barge boards are being taken from the front wing and placed on the rear wing to help to smooth the airflow from the front. The rear wing has been increased to make a larger pocket of air for cars behind the leader. This will help to smooth the airflow and to increase the proximity of the cars. NASCAR is famous for its tight-pack running, but that does not mean that Formula 1 cars are not always trying to find new ways to keep the sport fresh and exciting. This way, they are ready to redesign the cars every few years to offer the best racing experience for both drivers and fans. Aggregate qualifying. In the 2000s, Formula 1 would be constantly changing its qualifying rules almost every season, which led to one of the worst ideas of this era: aggregate qualifying. Here's how it worked. Drivers would record 2 qualifying sessions, each one consisting of a single lap. In the first session, there was no fuel restriction at all, whereas the second session would be the same fuel load they would start the race with. The times from both sessions were added up and the sum was used to compute the grid. It looked like the very cure to something that was not exactly a disease. It was too complex, and that took the thrill of grid selection on Saturday, since the second session was on Sunday morning. However, the guys in charge knew what a bad idea it was, and they got it right very quickly. It made its debut for only 6 races in 2005, and then was abandoned altogether. Extra points will be earned for 1 race only. Lewis Hamilton has been in the position of fighting for the championship in the last race of the Formula One season as many times as he can remember. Other times, he is the one who comes out on top, as in 2008 when he grabbed the championship from Felipe Massa on a last lap battle. Sometimes he's been the winner, like the controversial 2021 finale where he took the championship, and other times he's been on the losing end, such as in the previous year's controversial finale. In 2014, F1 championed some fake excitement at the season's end by introducing a double-point system for the last race. In other words, the last race of the year would award double the points as usual, with the victor receiving 50 points instead of the customary 25. Yet, the paradox was that Hamilton's rivalry with his teammate Nico Rosberg was in fact a nail-biting championship scenario with only 17 points separating the two. Therefore, this was a rule that was not really necessary. Finally, Rosberg's technical failure in the last race of the season became the deciding factor that allowed Hamilton to secure the championship. He broke the record of 50 championship points in one weekend, and it was the double points rule that enabled him to do so. It was a rule that didn't actually change the result because the championship battle would have been intense without it. 2 liveries? 1 team? In 1999, Bar, a Formula One team, suffered a bit of a problem with the regulations. Both of them were revealed with 2 different paint jobs on their cars during the launch event. One of the cars was white and had red details for Lucky Strike, and the other was blue and was used for State Express 555. However, regulations for F1 require that all cars from the same team should be identical in appearance. After negotiation with the in-charge, Bar made a concession. They painted each car with 2 colors, the top half of one side blue and the bottom half white with red details on the other side. In this way, they seemed to be in compliance with the rules and still managed to advertise both brands. No tire changes to be done, which will bring the grid size down by 6 cars. The rule change by the FIA that followed the 2000 to 2004 dominance of Michael Schumacher and Ferrari in Formula One was one of the most significant events in the history of the sport. According to them, the partnership between Bridgestone and Ferrari had also contributed to their success. Thus, they banned drivers from using 2 different sets of tires for qualifying and the main event. This change created the chance for other teams like McLaren, Renault, Williams and Toyota, who were using Michelin tires, to have their own opportunity. Michelin tires were not as fast as Bridgestone's and had a longer life. Yet in 2016, the FIA had to add new variations to the qualifying format. In this format, the car with the slowest speed would be eliminated after 7 minutes, then every 90 seconds, one more car would be knocked out until the end of the session, including in Q2 and Q3. Thus, the new format didn't please the fans and was considered as the worst. It was only valid for 2 races, and the 2016 Australian and Bahrain Grand Prix, before the FIA decided to go back to the previous system that everyone was more at ease with.